Hello, everyone. I'm Stephen Long. This is The Writing Life, and my guest today is Sean Davis. And before we get started on that, just a little housekeeping. I wanted to take the opportunity to thank Caroline O'Brien, who is now the producer and just doing a super job and making this possible. So, Caroline, thank you so much. I also want to talk just a minute about the Terroir Creative Writing Festival. This is our 8th year, a terrific lineup of speakers and presenters, and just as there have been in the past. This is April 22nd, it's a Saturday, and you can go online at terroircreativewritingfestival.com, and there's an online application. And once again, it'll be at Chemeketa, and thank you folks for providing such a terrific venue. So, Sean is going to be one of the presenters, and just a real pleasure to have this guy. I got to read a little bit of his bio, and it's an honor. It really is.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, and I said earlier, Sean, you're the real deal. You have all the credentials for writing what you do, and ultimately I want to get into your book because that's kind of why we're here. Mm-hmm. But let me read a little bit from your bio if you don't.
Oh, okay.
As long don't be embarrassed here, but this is just really impressive. So, all right, here's the book, The Wax Bullet War. Sean Davis is the author of The Wax Bullet War. He's a Purple Heart Iraq War veteran, a community leader in Northeast Portland. He's the winner of the Legionnaire of the Year Award from the American Legion in 2015, the recipient of Emily Gottfried Emerging Leader, Human Rights Award for 2016, and on, but you're also a lobbyist. Is that correct?
Yes.
So talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I never thought I'd do that, you know. I work with Vote Vets. We're an organization of veterans who go to Capitol Hill. We go up to Washington, D.C., and we pick certain issues and we talk to our lawmakers. I was just there to talk to our lawmakers about the Iran nuclear deal,
okay,
and the GOP healthcare bill that
okay,
that had ultimately failed. We were trying to look out for veterans and just our communities. I mean, we're a group of people that believe, a group of veterans that believe that just because our service ended doesn't mean our service to our country has ended. And so we're trying to do the best we can, and I've been doing that. I'm also fighting for the. Last year we were fighting for the Oregon Wildlands Act. This year we're fighting for the Frank and Jeanette Moore Steelhead recreational bill.
okay.
It's off the Rogue River to try to preserve a part of the Rogue River in order to, keep it away from being harmed in any kind of, I don't know. We just want to make sure we protect it.
Okay. So environmental, you have environmental concerns as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
not to get too political here, but in the Iran nuclear deal, what was your position? What are you trying to advocate?
Well, we're advocating peace.
Okay.
Thank
you for that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that there's anybody who's been in a war that would advocate for anything else. Combat is a horrible thing. But, at the same time, we want to make sure our country's safe, and we want to make sure that, we're doing what we can to promote peace across the world, but, holding people accountable as well.
Sure. You're the recipient of a Purple Heart.
Yes.
Are you comfortable talking a little bit about that?
Oh, yeah, I have no problem. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I was in Taji, Iraq. I was hit in an ambush. It was a pretty violent ambush. It was 2 IEDs, 3 machine guns, and some mortar attack. A friend of mine, Eric McKinley, was killed instantly, only a couple feet behind me, and another couple good friends were pretty badly injured. There were
well, you were injured as well.
Yeah. About most of the bones in the right side of my body were broken. I was sitting in the front seat of a Humvee. It had a 3-inch plate door, which saved my life. But when it came in, it broke, my shoulder, my arm, my knee, cracked some ribs. My leg broke my leg and knocked me out instantly.
As a civilian and never having been in anything remotely like that, it's hard to imagine.
Yeah, well, I wrote about it.
Yeah.
you,
So,
can, you can read it.
well, and we're going to talk about that.
Yeah, well, it helped me to write about it, you know.
Sure.
And that's what I try to get across when we do the workshops, for sure.
Yeah. Now, just before we get to that, though, you're an artist as well.
Yes. Yeah.
Talk a little bit about that.
Well, you know, I credit art for saving my life. When I came back after the war, I was pretty badly, you know, injured, but not only just physically,
Sure.
emotionally, spiritually, mentally. And I, you know, when you come back from that and you're not able, and I trained for war most of my adult life. You know, I was in the Army infantry, and I knew how to fire every weapon the Army has, pretty much, and especially the small arms, and taught other people how to survive during combat. And then we finally go to combat, and I get hurt and sent home, and then I can't be that person anymore.
Right.
I lost my identity. And when you lose your identity, it's a really it's a crisis. You know, you have to figure out who you are and what you want to be in life. And so I found art out of all things, which I didn't think it would be arts that saved me, but it was art, painting and writing about.
So, were you an artist before military?
Yeah, in a way. I mean, I like to draw, I like to paint. I never really took it serious, you know. Never really thought I'd be a writer, although I did write stories, but I never thought I'd really, you know, really go into it as much as I have since.
Uh-huh.
So I had maybe the inclination, but not the motivation.
Okay.
I don't know. But after I came back, you know, it wasn't until I started painting again that, in writing about what happened, that really helped me. You know, it really, like I said, saved my life. Or else I probably would have killed myself or drank myself to death. It was really a self-destructive lifestyle for a long time.
Sure. Yeah. And I was talking to our producer, Carolyn, before you came, and she said that the injuries may have affected, physically, at least for a time, your ability to create art. Was that the case?
Well, I had broken my arm and my leg. I couldn't write. You know, I couldn't do much. I mean, it was pretty severe. I still have some nerve damage in both my arm and my legs and my ribs and in my head. But yeah, it took me a while to heal up. But when I did, you know, the first thing I did after I healed up was thought I needed another deployment to make life make sense. And so I went down to Hurricane Katrina, New Orleans, after Hurricane Katrina. And that's where I realized I couldn't do it. Couldn't do it anymore, you know? And so I got out of the military after I got back from that.
Okay.
And then, and it was a really crazy time, because when I got out of the military, it took me a while for the VA benefits to catch up. And so I did whatever I could do just to get along, and I ended up, you know, being a waiter in a restaurant for a while, and I just couldn't deal with people too much. You know, I had a lot of anger issues for a while, and but I finally got through it. Like I said, it was art.
And one of the many things you do now is teach.
Yeah.
Right? Can you talk about that?
Sure. Yeah, I teach writing. At Mount Hood Community College, I have a whole veteran cohort class that I teach, and it's a whole class of veterans, because I know how it feels for them to try to come back to school afterwards. You know, when you're in a class and you've been to combat and you're in a class with, you know, 18, 19-year-old kids, it's kind of difficult for you. You know, we all, you know, carry on and we'll do our best and we won't make an issue of it, but it is very difficult to do that.
I can imagine.
And so I teach a class with all of them, and which is great, because they hold each other accountable. And if they don't show up for class, they'll say, "Hey, what's going on?" You know,
Sure.
And they feel like they're in a platoon again, and they're all in it together, and it works out pretty well.
Right. And I don't want to explore this right now because we're going to do it later. But you're going to make a presentation at Terroir.
Yeah.
And it's sort of related to this, isn't it?
Yes, writing through trauma.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so it wouldn't matter what the trauma is.
No, I'm a firm believer that we all experience trauma. You know, you don't have to be in the military to have PTSD. I know that whole phrase is definitely synonymous almost with veterans coming through war, but it could be anybody.
Yeah.
It could be any trauma. You know,
Okay.
It's all a matter of perspective.
Okay.
Yeah.
We only have a couple minutes. you're going to come right back here because we're not done.
Yeah.
But to talk a little bit about your book, I think I know where the title came from, but why don't you tell
Oh,
people?
sure. Well, I'll talk about the
Yeah.
title. So,
Yeah.
so my book starts. I was out of the military in January 1999. I had gone in '93, got out in '99. I did my 6 years. Went to Haiti during the revolution. I was done.
Really?
But then the day after September 11th, I reenlisted, and I enlisted in the Oregon National Guard. And about a year and a half later, we were in Iraq, or we're in Kuwait actually, before we went to Iraq. And they decided, like, hey, let's zero our weapons, make them more accurate. So let's go out to the desert and do that. And we drove out into the desert. And when we got there, we had to switch out our upper receivers of our M4s, and they gave us to fire these wax bullets. And it was 120 degrees in the desert, and you can imagine the wax bullets didn't,
Right.
do very well. And so somebody spent a lot of money thinking that these, wax bullets would be a great thing to fire before we get into war. It made our weapons less accurate, and if you're going to war, you want to fight like you train or train like you fight, and so you want to make sure that you have real bullets to shoot so you can get used to them.
Right.
And so it kind of, the publisher, Hooligan Press, the staff there thought it would be a great
It's an analogy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. For what the war was like.
Like trying to shoot a crayon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly right.
Yeah.
You'd fire, it'd be a little thud, and it's like nothing like the kick of a real 5.56,
Yeah.
So it was pretty funny.
Yeah. So again, thank you for what you did and what you're doing now. And I think that again, I have no basis to say this other than things I've heard and things I can imagine. But the trauma of war, having been through that, and we talk about the men from World War II as an example, being very silent about that and not wanting to share. And I think that probably comes from knowing that whoever they're talking to, unless it's a war buddy, wouldn't get it anyway.
Well, I'm not sure about that. I thought about that a long time because, in World War II, 50% of the country were enlisted or
Really?
actively engaged in this war. Today, it's maybe 1%, and out of that 1%, only a certain percentage of that go to war.
Sure.
I was in the infantry, which was even a smaller percentage on the front lines, and like, I don't know. I'm not sure what it is. I mean, today in technology, you can go on YouTube and you can see a firefight that happened, 20 minutes ago. Mm-hmm. I don't know if people out there know that, but we just sent 1,000 soldiers into Syria, where they just gassed their people. So we have people.
So this is right now.
Right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So everything is live, and you can see digital HD pictures and video of what's going on if you cared to see it. Back then, I don't know if it was, my grandfather was shot down in the Aleutian Chains, and he was missing for 19 days. And as soon as he went missing, the Army declared him dead. They let his wife and his family know he was dead, which they never told him after they found him that they had done that. So he said it was a big shock to his family. Right. But we all lived that. It was our culture.
The reports of my death are...
Yeah, the Twain quote. Yeah, it was... our country was invested 100% into the wars. Mm-hmm. Today, we're not invested in the war. And I think that is one of the biggest problems that we have, because if we don't share that burden of wartime, it becomes unbearable for the few of us that have to share it,
I think
have to bear it.
That's a great word, is unbearable.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we're going to come back in a bit. I want to close out here and just thank everybody for watching. I'm Stephen W. Long. You can contact me through my website, stephenwlong.com. SeanDavis.com?
Sean Davis Writer.
Or SeanDavisWriter.com.
There's so many Sean Davises out there.
Okay. And go to this fellow's website. You'll be blown away. I want to talk about your art and so on, but we'll come back and do that. Right. Everybody, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time on The Writing Life.